buenos días a cada una de ustedes. Pues agradezco su presencia en este encuentro
Thank
de
you
nuevo.
to you all. I thank for your presence this morning. It's going to be an experience. We're going to share different knowledge as we always have. And mostly we will go in depth on the actor map that has to do with all our incidents process. Even when we have our plan, the idea is to know how we're going to strengthen the knowledge and the identification of the sectors with which we're going to influence and create an incident. In the previous session, we saw how it's clearly it's how it's important to have our public defined, to know how we're going to reach our public, and we know who we want to convince or create a sensibility based on what we want to achieve. So welcome to you all. Welcome with everything you bring. We are going to start with an invocation. And this invocation, we're going to develop it in the following way. Each one, we've been in the territories where we're doing our research. And now I would like that each one of you today, from your heart, you can bring forth the women, the people, the families, the communities with whom we're working on the research, and we're going to ask for their protection. I'm going to start thanking the heart of the earth, the heart of the sky, of the energies of the water, of fire, to the heart of the energies of the sunrise and sunset, to the heart of the energies of the planets, the stars, the grandmother moon, and the grandfather sun, and thanking the energy of the peoples that allows us to learn, share, and be. And today I want to thank the energy of each one of the sisters that are developing processes of research, of intercultural research in this forum. I thank for the energy of Dom, the energy of Min, the energy of Dunen, of Lukila, Vivian, Liz, Ananja, Daisy, and for the energy of all the sisters that are not here today yet, but I know are going to come and join us. Thank you for your commitment and of your families, because I know that maybe you've had to leave your families to be able to do this research in each of the territories that you're working on. And with my open hands, I send them happiness in their heart, wisdom, harmony, and very broad, soft, and wonderful roads. So be it. That their star will shine with happiness, and that they can walk through life and do their research with happiness and commitment, and that doors open for communities, for homes, and the heart of and the feeling thinking of women, of grandmothers and grandfathers, and youth and children. Let it be. So with the following order, I would like to ask Dom, Minint, Dunen, or Nukila, Vivian, Liz, Ananja, Daisy, and Naina to do your invocation. To dedicate some words and to send energy for the people with whom we're doing our research. So, Dom, you can begin. Florence, you can begin. I don't know, Dom, can you hear me? Doman, Florence, can you do your invocation briefly? thanking the people and the community and the women with which you are doing your research, please? We will hear you. Dom, you're on mute.
¿Me escucha, Dom?
Dom, can you hear me? Florence, can you hear me?
Bienvenida.
Welcome. Hello.
Yes, hello, I can hear. Yeah. Yeah, but I missed. It's choppy, I'm sorry.
Muy bien. Lo que le pedimos y ahorita
Okay, what we're asking is for you to do an invocation when you send energy to the communities and the women and the families with whom you're working on your intercultural research with.
y lo puede hacer desde sus palabras y desde su corazón.
And that you can do it from your heart and your words.
Yeah. Uh, I send gratitude for the openness and the willingness to engage in this journey of relearning, rediscovering, and reclaiming.
Ya no escuchamos a Don, pero muchas gracias.
Thank you so much. And we're going to ask Mimit, can you please do your invocation this morning? Mimi, can you hear us?
Hello, teacher. Are you calling me?
Sí, para pedirle que
Yes, to ask you that you dedicate in an invocation some words of gratitude or energies of light to the families or the people or the communities with whom or where you're carrying out your research, please.
I'm sorry, teacher. I don't get the point. Last week I was on the way home to Myanmar and I didn't know the homework. I'm not sure what you want to ask, actually. I'm sorry. Can I answer can I listen from the other first? Then I will try to answer.
muy bien, lo que estamos
Of
haciendo
course, what we're doing is we're starting with a gratitude, a spiritual gratitude as invocation. And what we're doing is we're dedicating this gratitude to each of the communities, women, families in which you are with which you're doing your research. So we're asking you please that each one of you say some words of gratitude or positive energies to these for these families or for these women and those communities where we're doing our research. So while me listens the rest, we're gonna ask Dunen, then Nukila, Vivian, Liz, Ananja, Anaina, and then Janili and Daisy. Okay, welcome Dunen. Good morning to you all. I want to ask for Mother Earth wisdom and a lot of light to all the indigenous women. Thank you, Dunen. We're gonna come with Nukila now. Nukila, do you have your words that you want to dedicate to your community, families, and Indigenous women with whom you're doing your intercultural, or based on you're doing your intercultural research?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
La escuchamos.
Go
Okay, I
ahead.
think I have a difficulty with the video, but later I will turn on. Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good good day for all of us. First of all, I would like to give my prayers and positive encouragement to my community, Indigenous Sea women and their families. I also would like to thank to them who accepted me already here. I'm here at their land, their spirit, their energy, and I would like to move forward with them for the well-being, for the rights of the women, and for their future, for a better positive, and also for the better life. Thank you so much.
Gracias, Druquila. Le damos la palabra a
Thank you,
Nanja.
Nukila. Ananja, go ahead. We give you the floor.
Thank you, teacher, for giving me. I would love to. My gratitude will be and knowledge and also the calmness and peace and the elements of water and also wind, which is come to which I will inspire from them, and I also give them a motivation and inspire to them. Thank you.
Gracias a Nanja.
Thank you, Ananja.
Entonces,
Now
Vivian.
we give the floor to Vivian.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, colleagues. For me, I call upon the spirit of peace, love, justice, and unity as we undertake our research on the issues that affect our Indigenous women. I call upon the energy from our Mother Earth so that it will guide us, bless us, and protect us through this process. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Vivian. Liz.
Thank you so much, Vivian. Liz. Yes, I thank life for all the learning, nature for resisting the indigenous peoples of the communities that have opened their doors to me and given me the opportunity to work with them, to tell me their experiences and their stories of our grandparents, the resistance that they had and that our parents had. I think that this fight that we have had will allow us to have better days. Thank you, Liz. Ananja? Anaina, sorry.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, my sister and teacher. Yeah. First of all, I want to give thanks to the society and the community for your support for this research. I gratitude for your information and time, and I respect you and your society. This research aim to bring a positive energy to the families and communities involved, highlighting their strengths and fostering a supportive environment for gender equality and women's empowerment. By emphasizing the benefit of inclusive practice, we can create a more harmonious and prosperous society for all. Thank you.
Gracias, Naina. Jenny Lynn.
Thank you, Jenny Lynn. Thank you, Naina. Jenny Lynn.
Jenny Lynn, ¿me escucha?
Can you hear me, Jenny Lynn?
Sí, señora. Buenos días a todas.
Yes, good morning to you all.
Buenos días, buenas noches, buenas tardes.
Good afternoon, good night.
Bueno, yo mis palabras de agradecimiento
My thank you words are
mujeres de mi
towards the women of my community,
su disposición
to
y
thank them for their
recursos
disposition, their time disposition, and their
en cada una de las
proactivity
actividades que hemos
in each
realizado,
of the activities that they have
por toda
that we have
la
done,
energía que han tenido
and
para
for all the energy that they have had
a toda
to
esta
be able to
investigación,
contribute to all the research work,
han sido momentos
especially because there have been
de
times
compartir, de
of
volver
sharing,
a
of going
a nuestro
back
pasado, a nuestra historia,
to
y
our
que
roots and our
han sido
history, our
maravillosas
past,
porque fueron, o sea,
and
han
thank
sido
them
momentos muy
because
propicios
they and
para
these have been
volver a
moments that have
recordar
been perfect to remember
y
again
sentir
and
esa esencia
feel
de ese
again
sentir
that
de cada Wayuu.
essence of
Entonces, como
the Wayu
darle gracias
women.
por todo eso y que
So thank you for all
sigamos
that
con esa misma
and that let
sintonía
us continue in
y
that
sigamos con
same
toda la
page,
fuerza de las
and
mujeres.
that we can continue with all that energy of
Gracias.
women.
Le damos la
Thank you, Jenny. We give the floor to
Thank you very much, teacher. Greetings, all my sisters. I hope everyone is doing good. My thanks, I direct them to the energy of the light because I appreciate the energy because it's been the one that without light we can't do anything. And I thank all our ancestors. I call upon the ancestors of my community who've been guiding me all through and who've been guiding the community all through. And I would like to direct my thanks also to the Indigenous women in my community who've always been wanting their girls to go to school. I've done a small part of the research and I give all my thanks to them. Some of them are very willing to share information. I pray that they keep being open, they keep sharing with me all these ideas so that I can come and share them with you and you give me ideas on how to help them. Thank you.
Gracias, Daisy. Se acaba de incorporar Jessie, pero creo que
Thank you,
Naina.
Daisy. Jessie is going to start, but I think Naina was missing.
Quienes falten, por favor, tienen la palabra.
Whoever's missing, you have the floor.
No sé si Naina ya había
I
expresado.
don't know if Naina has already spoken.
Luego sería
If
Jessie.
not, go ahead, and then after Jessie.
Yes, teacher, I already give my answer.
Gracias, gracias. Le
Thank you.
decimos a
Thank you.
Jessie, por favor.
Jessie, go ahead.
Estamos enviando un agradecimiento a las mujeres, a la comunidad, a las familias.
We're thanking the community and the family
De aprender en esta investigación.
who are giving us the possibility to learn in this research.
Tiene usted la palabra.
You have the floor.
Gracias. Buenos días a todas, queridas hermanas.
Thank you, and good morning to you all, my dear sisters. I thank all the Indigenous women of my community, and my territory, because they're always willing to share with a lot of happiness and enthusiasm. And they not only share their words, but also their valuable time, their food, their teachings when they're weaving. And I thank them so much for that. And I also thank them for the generosity of Mother Earth, for these amazing spaces that we have in the field, those big trees that give us a shade that allows us to talk and have clean air. I thank also water, because it's another space where we can find ourselves, we can find each other. That always leaves a lot of good experiences for us and a lot of learning experiences with us. Those are my those are my gratitude. Thank you, Jesse. If anybody's missing, and if not, let's close our invocation. We wanted to dedicate this time because it's important to thank those of you who are accompanying us and are sharing your feeling, thinking, and your knowledge, because those are the ones who are the heart of our research. Thank you to them. We're going to do that weaving. We're going to be able to write what our research is. If you weren't here, we wouldn't have no one to listen to. So we thank them. Somebody has just joined. If we wanted to send a thank you to the women, to the grandmothers, to the community where you're doing their research, welcome somebody.
Buenos días, compañeras.
Good morning, sisters.
Yo quiero agradecer
I want to thank
sobre todo
especially
al aire,
the earth, the air,
al agua
the
que
fire,
nos está
the
acompañando en
water
esta
that is
temporada,
now
a cada una de
accompanying
las
us,
familias que viven
and
en
each
la
of the
comunidad,
families that live in the
las
community,
mujeres,
the
las
women,
niñas. Creo
and
que cada
the
día aprendemos muchísimo de
children.
ellos
I think
y
that
sobre
each
todo
day
nos
we learn so
llena
much from
de
them,
alegría que podamos
and they give
continuar
us
trabajando
huge
juntos,
happiness that
juntas
we can continue working
en
together
colectividad. Muchas gracias.
in the collective. Thank you, Samai. And with this, we close your invocation with open arms. We're going to open and thank for the energy that we have received. Any sadness that we have heard, but also we've heard a lot of strength. Thank you for the earth that we have visited, the voices we have visited, for the energy that we have received. We're going to put it here, and we take it to our belly button so that all that wisdom is moved to our life. We take it to our heart so that we can process right from the energy of ourselves as women, of originary peoples, like indigenous peoples that we are as researchers as well. Then we take it to our head so that when we write and draft and interpret that reality, we do it from a place of wisdom, connected to the hearts of the sky and the earth, and connected to the heart of the water and the wind, and connected to sunset and sunrise, so that in our research, we can write what they have shared with us, what they have told us, and that we can build new theories, new knowledge, new cosmo knowledge from the knowledge and the wisdom of women, of originary peoples, in communication and harmony with the earth, with the water and the wind. So we hug all of that we have received. We hug our strength. We open our eyes if you open them. We extend our hands. We're going to lift, we're going to stretch them. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now we move back. 1, 2, 3, 4. Letting go of all the bad energy that we have. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now to the front.
Estiramos los pies, las manos, así lo más que podamos. Estiren para adelante. Todas quiero ver sus manos. Las que tengan su cámara encendida, si todas la pudieran encender. Estiramos. Muy bien. Hacemos esto una vez.
We do this once, twice, 2, and 3, and 4 times. Okay. We do this with our hands, like if we had stars, to move our hands.
Hay frío, hay calor donde estamos, pues nos vamos a poner en movimiento. Hacemos acá, una vez, dos veces, tres y cuatro veces para adentro, una vez, dos veces, tres y cuatro veces. Muy bien, buenos
Good
días,
job.
buen mediodía, buena tarde, buena noche. Y
Hello.
espero que no nos vayamos a aburrir, vamos a tener
And I hope we
buenos
don't get
momentos
bored
en esta
today.
jornada. Primero, ahorita vamos a compartir brevemente qué es el mapa de
We're going to
actores.
share
Ya lo hemos
briefly
estado viendo, pero queremos
the
profundizar en
actor map.
algunos puntos.
We have seen it, but we want to
Por la
get more in depth in
importancia que
some
tiene para
points
nuestro plan de incidencia.
because of the
Segundo,
importance of
vamos
our
a hacer un
incidents
trabajo
plan.
individual, cada una, y luego vamos
We're
a
going to do an
hacer
individual work,
un
each
trabajo
one,
plenario.
and
Y
we're
con
going to
eso
do
vamos a
a
terminar
group
nuestra
work.
primera serie.
And with that, we're
Entonces,
going to
sería
finish our
importante partir de la información, de las evidencias que ustedes han
session.
encontrado,
And it's
y tomar en
important
cuenta también lo que ya tenemos
to
en
take
nuestro
into
plan de
consideration
incidencias.
what we already have in
Entonces,
our
quisiera
incidents
antes de
plan.
empezar a
So
platicar,
before we
preguntarles
start, I
de
want
qué
to
vamos a
ask,
hablar. Pero, ¿qué es
we
para
have already
ustedes
spoken, but what
un
is it
mapa
for
de
you
actores?
in actors
¿Quién ha
map?
hecho un mapa de actor y cómo,
Who has
qué es
done
para
that?
usted un mapa de actor?
And what is it for you?
Espero que me escuchen.
I hope you can
Me
hear me.
gustaría que participemos de manera
I would
espontánea,
like
no
that for you
nombrándoles,
to
sino
participate
desde la respuesta que
spontaneously,
me formulen.
not name you, but
¿Qué es un
instead
mapa de
for you to
actores?
work
Sí, yo
from
tengo
what
un
you know.
mapa de
What
actores
is it,
como un
Jesse?
ejercicio
It's
de
an
identificar
exercise
a
of
diferentes
identifying
personas y
all
también
those people
instituciones que
and all those
pueden colaborar
institutions
en
that
nuestro
can
programa,
collaborate
nuestro
in our
proyecto,
program
identificar de qué manera ellos pueden
and
aportar
identify how
ideas
they
y
can
herramientas,
bring
recursos,
and
eh,
what tools they can bring.
eso.
That's basically it.
¿Quién más? Voluntaria y
Who
espontáneamente. ¿Qué es
else
un mapa de actores?
spontaneously? What's an actor's map or map of incidents?
¿Alguna vez han hecho un mapa de actores? Ya, de hecho, para hacer el plan
Anybody else has
de
done
algún
a
conocimiento.
map of
¿Qué es un mapa de actores para nosotras?
what is a map of incidents or an actor's map for you?
Nuquila, para usted, ¿qué es un mapa de actores?
Nokila, what is it for you?
Okay, I would like to try to answer it. I think the map is for
Right?
sorry, identify those who have the power, those who can collaborate, and those who can we can those who want to be empowered. So this for me this is a very good exercise because we can identify all the stakeholders, whether they have the authority, they have the weaknesses, they have the strength, and how to also to coalition, not only coordination, yeah, but also to coalition with them, to do cooperation, as well as how to move forward together with them. I think this I think my answers.
Gracias, Nuquila. Nay, ¿qué es para usted, Naina? Un mapa de
Thank you,
actores.
Nokila. Naina, what is the stakeholders map to you?
Thank you, teacher. I'm a little confused about the question. Can you please clarify me? I'm a little confused.
¿Qué es para usted un mapa de actores?
What is a stakeholders map to you within the incidents process? What is it? What is it to you? What does it mean to you? A stakeholders map.
Yeah, I'm lost, actually.
No se preocupe, vamos a ir aclarando. Le quiero pedir a Daisy que nos pueda...
Don't worry, we're going to start clearing up. Daisy, can you share from your experience, what is a stakeholders map? What do you understand by stakeholders map? Daisy, if you are here, we would also ask Samai to share what is your understanding of a stakeholders map. I don't know if it's the same thing as mapping, where we can have a matrix and we have names, contacts, and focal points.
Can I
And
try to answer?
where you've had interest and that could have an interest in our project. This could be the stakeholders map when we have a research in the interviews, but also in the incidents plan, as we had discussed. Who are going to be our allies? Who do we need to know? Who are working our same subjects that can strengthen and mediate in the work that we are doing and take it to another level, not just a local level, but also regional and international. Thank you, Samai. Daisy, welcome.
Thank you. According to my understanding, stakeholder mapping is, for example, in my incident, is me having to identify the various stakeholders and having to know their level of engagement in my project and also getting to understand the importance in my project. Thank you. That's my understanding.
Muy bien, le agradezco a cada una de ustedes. Pues la jornada de hoy es para
Thank you
fortalecer.
to all. So today's session is to strengthen, because to make an incident plan that I hope you will continue sending, it's important. It's important that we have it. So a starting point is we have to identify who are our stakeholders, because they make decisions that could bring help the process or block the process after the research. So for this, we're going to reinforce briefly with a small explanation. If you have a doubt of the presentation, I will thank you for letting me know so that we can clear up. First of all, we're going to say, as you very well mentioned, that an actor's map or a stakeholders map looks not just to have a list of different stakeholders and know what to do. It's more than that. It's also to know their actions and their objectives of their participation. What do they do in their territory? What do they do? What actions do they develop in favor of the process, the changing process that we want to generate obstacles for those sectors that we want, or that are not doing any actions in favor or against, that are blocking the processes, or those stakeholders that could be indifferent but are represented majority and are determining for change. So the stakeholders map needs to be considered as the first step to create an incidence and the change processes that we're thinking about in our incidents plan. And also stakeholders map is going to allow us to learn the alliances. Who can we create an alliance? Who's going to be our strength at a community and territory level, and at a national level, or even at an international level, with whom I can say I have an alliance. It's my strength. They're going to complement me. We're going to draw the processes and work together in this change. And we're going to see who we could have a conflict with, for example. For example, if it's a cement company, one of the stakeholders is going to be the owners of that cement company, people who work there. So that all people are going to be against us doing an incidents plan to eliminate these practices or their negative impacts, for example. So So we have to see who are going to be the people who are able to talk about, to talk with us from the different institutions, with whom we can create an alliance, or who are the people that have the decision-making power for our favor or against. There's always going to be people who have representatives, who are representatives. Maybe it's not at the beginning. If it's a community, for example, he's the mayor is a stakeholder, but he's not going to be the person we're going to talk to directly to begin with. Maybe he has somebody from the ministry that we can speak to first, that establishes what's the voice of who has the power. So the stakeholders map allows us to know all that network of external stakeholders for the community or that are in the community that have an influence, negative or positive, in the change that we want to achieve. And that's why the stakeholders map allows us to select the stakeholders better, the stakeholders to whom we have to turn to within the incidents process, going to allow us to know and focus. First, we're clear who the stakeholders are. And that allows us to have, that's what the stakeholders map allows us. And it's a very useful, the projects, it's going to be a key tool for our projects because it allows us to have schemes and to have a schedule and understand the social reality where we're at that could be more complex. And it allows us to understand the reality that we're in as we see it, as we live it. And it's going to represent a reality in a graphic form. And we're going to be able to see and understand and identify these stakeholders, the level of relationship that they have between each other, and the relationship that they have with the change that we want to make. Because it allows us, for example, the map of Samai, your intentionality is for women to really take on the route to make any kind of abuse, to be able to denounce the abuse, and that women are in charge of that and take on ownership of that. So who are we going to reach to get to that point of change? Who's going to be in favor or against us achieving this? So the stakeholder map allows us to define that. The stakeholders map also allows us to create a quick reference of the main actors or the main stakeholders involved in a subject or a conflict. If Dicey, for example, is talking about the right to education, there are key stakeholders like the Ministry of Education that have the responsibility, the public responsibility for the right to education, the school, the schools. Those are public stakeholders that are involved in the right to education. For mothers and fathers, and other important stakeholders are mothers and fathers. Directors of educational centers, teachers, directors, and children themselves. Do they have access or not to education, for example? And it could be the local government. Maybe there's a company that is not interested in women to be educated because women are cheap labor. And maybe sometimes we would have, for example, churches in my country, some churches were against women having education because they said that they were going to wake up. And if they do, they're going to start asking for the rights. And governments used to say that too. Indigenous women and indigenous peoples didn't have the right to education because if they were educated, they would wake up and recognize their rights. Today, the reality is another, but that could be an example. so that we can recognize what actors are involved or what stakeholders are involved. And it allows us to transcend. We say, oh, we have a list and we're done. No, it allows us to ask on their abilities, political, technical, economical, their interest in the topic, if there's any kind of incentive, what it gives you an incentive to be in favor or against. It allows us to know what is the intentionality. Why are you in that problem? Or why would you oppose or why would you be in favor? So the stakeholders map goes beyond a list to characterize these stakeholders. It allows us to identify areas of agreement or disagreement, meaning that there are what areas are these stakeholders working on, and clarify the channels of incidence amongst them. For example, in the educational community, school principals, teachers have an influence, and over them in our country, the Ministry of Education has an influence over them, and they have an influence amongst them each other. Then they influence in mothers and fathers. So what do these incidents and stakeholder maps work? And it also allows us to establish a scheme of alliances or a general scheme of alliances or coalitions. It tells us what actions do we carry out in terms of recycling or the right to water. We must identify who is in favor, and there have to be possibilities to create alliances amongst them. And with their incidence plan or with our stakeholders map, we can think in terms of water. We can say that Daisy is working on, no, sorry, Jenny is working the water topic, the right to water. So we can say, sorry, it is Jessie. And she's working the right to water. Let's see who is in favor. Who's working at a local level, the water committees, defenders of water, the grandmothers that speak with water, the guardians of water, that a local institution that gets there to install water systems for the community or a national network of defenders for water. If she can clarify and know who the stakeholders are, first she can establish, not her personally, but her community can and the women can establish alliances with each stakeholder, and then establish a network in favor of water that is not at a local level only, but at a international level as well. And then you can identify that internationally there's also a network for water and territory. And it exists with a South American level. And you're going to say we're going to link up because the right to water is something that is relevant and more complex at an international level. So in your stakeholders map, you're going to identify local stakeholders, regional stakeholders, national and international, depending on the magnitude of your position, of your work. And that's where we say that the stakeholders map can facilitate alliances and coalitions. And it gives us a space of power in which you participate, identify which stakeholder, and I say, okay, this group of stakeholders are important, and let me think of a network for defending water. It depends on what they're working on. And this organization is working on the spiritual part and energy part. with grandmothers and grandfathers who take care of water. This identifies. So this network is aligned to other movements as well, to other strengths at an international and national level. So it allows us to identify the power spaces or the spaces of power in which we participate. And here we're talking about a network in favor of water. But if we identify a mining company, an open pit mining company that arrives to the territory that's going to consume thousands of liters of water a day, that the only thing that they're interested in is take out the gold and take it, and they don't care if they're going to contaminate water sources. That's a stakeholder, a power stakeholder that is there creating an impact negatively in the right to water. But we're going to say it's there, but it's a company that's not just any company, the transnational company has a presence in my town, but it's also present in other territories. And it has an alliance with other transnational countries. So the stakeholder maps allows us to see the level of power that that company might have, that is extractivist, that hurts the water, and it's an actor or a stakeholder in which we have to influence. So we have to know more about it to measure the strength of how we're going to create an incidence and affect these structures. Another element that the stakeholder map allows us to do is that it favors the identification of objectives around surrounding a specific situation, meaning that with a stakeholders map, I identify actions that are happening and objectives that they're looking for in regards to the subject. It could be actions and objectives in favor or against. The map serves also, or could be used to represent in a visual way which entities and people intervene within a conflict or in a situation. They will not always be people who generate a conflict. Sometimes they're people who want to solve the conflict or are carrying out actions in favor of change. But we could also have stakeholders who are generating specific changes. So the map allows us to see at a graphic and visual level who those stakeholders are. And in the design processes, they serve to, so that when we design a stakeholders map, we are going to earn understanding and context, meaning that it allows us to map out who are the people and the entities involved within a project, a help system, or for our incidents plan, and detect possible areas of improvement. It's going to allow us to understand that, and it allows us to understand better who intervenes and how they intervene. So the stakeholders map allows us to have understanding and context of that reality where we are going to implement our incidents plan. Entities and people involved in favor or against, and understand in which context, not just mapping. It's to contextualize according to the reality of the local and international context. Also, the stakeholder map allows us to have design the ecosystem of projects. It could serve to understand what is the relationship going to be between entities of an ecosystem. If it's going to place a project and get it going, we're talking about our incidents plan, and it's going to allow us to visualize who are going to intervene in the startup of that incidents plan, who's going to really commit to change, and who we're really going to reach. We want a public policy or municipal policy to take care of water. We first have to touch the community, the committees of water, the grandmothers and grandfathers take care of water. Those are the stakeholders that depend on water. And we're going to identify the municipal government. that have a direction as well. So that's another stakeholder we're going to identify. So the stakeholder maps allow us to understand, to identify those stakeholders that are going to contribute, are going to be key to put our incidence plan into effect. And it's also a tool to reflect. Once we start working in our map, we're going to have questions surrounding the people, the users that are around that reality or the change that we want. And this is also going to allow us to increment our perspective and will allow us to be more prepared as we move forward in the design process, meaning each time we're moving forward and reflecting. And we can identify in the sexual violence subject, there is a stakeholder we have to reach, mothers and fathers of young people or adults that might be the aggressors.
And we start reflecting why. Why is sexual violence against third age women is generating people from the communities? What is the imbalance? Where is that coming? That's just an example. Another element is why is there resistance to denounce, to recognize and acknowledge that the communities have this resistance to recognize this aspects? Why does the government, the central government, in the public ministry, the Justice Department, has not provided the correct attention to this act of violence against women of third age? And where isn't there an investment to create this awareness? So maps of actors, based on the context, is going to allow us to reflect on different elements. This is why it's not actioning. It's not. This leads us to reflect and create better actions. And each one of you can do a reflection around the actors that have an impact in your context and the change that you want. What are the steps that we want to see our map of actors?
No sé si está cambiando las diapositivas porque solo se ve una, ya tiene rato que dice mapa de actores.
Sí, se quedó en la primera. Muy bien, voy a revisar ahorita de nuevo y me avisan, por favor.
I'm sorry, there was a... Does everyone see the map, the slide? She's gonna go back to see all the slides because she was speaking and never changed it. This is the one that we're looking at right now. What does the mapping of actors allow us to do? All right. Okay, so here we are now. The first step is to be clear on the objectives of the mapping. Why? Why do I need to do the mapping of actors? I'll go step by step explaining each one of this. The second step is to define the variables to consider, especially the variables on the topic that I want to discuss, and the map of actors. Then is to gather the information that we need. What do we need? We can't be imagining or supposing. There has to be information collected on a research on our map of actors. The fourth step is analysis of the mapping of actors and creating a strategy. This is very important. I don't care about having a map of actors if it's not a continuity strategies to have action, have an influence on those actors. And the fourth step is to create the matrix of the map of actors, then recognizing the social relationship, and then acknowledging of the social. And we do graphically the map of actors. Are we good so far? Are you good so far with that idea on all the steps you have to follow? We'll go step by step in a minute, but I just ask you right now if you have any questions so far. You can be changing steps along the way and build this based on your context and thinking on each step. All right, let's proceed then. So we're looking at the step to take the mapping is to clarify the objective. Clarify the objective because there are multiple ways of mapping a situation and a zone. So it is important to have clarity on what information I want to have and with what purpose.
De mi mapa de actores, de mi mapeo de actores. Y recordar que el mapeo es un medio para otro fin. Es decir, para nosotras, el mapeo de actores es un medio.
The mapping of actors is just a means for our incidence plan. Our incidence plan is a means to accomplish the changes that we want based on the findings that we found on our research. It's not this map of actors. It's not the end. It's just a mean. And this is the line of information that we gather has to be functional. It has to give us. It has to help us. It's not just to gather information, but to guide us and help us. That's going to have a purpose. It's going to back up and guide the incidence plans that we're going to have. And also, it's going to help us for a prior strategy. Because if I'm able to identify, let's see, the rights of land for the women, knowing that the land is not even the towns, like Nukile was saying, or the regional towns, or the indigenous towns, or the people where she's doing the research, not even the women. So they shouldn't have a right to the land. Who's the people who have public policies so that women and the towns have access to this land? Is there a policy that is not working? So that information is key, because based on that exercise, and this is intentional we were having, the labor, the tendencies, the mobilization, etc. So having cleared that information, I am able to define the strategy. How am I going to influence on that actor? So this has to be functional information to generate a strategy afterward. All the information of the map of actors is going to help us build strategies to have an influence, to be able to link the actors in the territory to those who can come into our plans, into our processes, based on the situations that we're mapping. So that's the objective, okay? So it's also important to measure the objectives of the map of actors. It is important to create an analysis based on the information we have available, both on the activity and the reality of the context, the social context, meaning that the information that we have is not only local. We have to go to the analysis at a greater level, where the reality is going to be different, where the access to education, for example, the change that we want to see for access of education for girls, that change of recovering practices for recycling and protecting Mother Earth, the changes that we want to see in access to water, to have availability of water for food, for a system of food production. That issue is not only at a local level, that's an issue that is global, that it has national impact and international impact. And so it allows us to understand better the context and how it inserts it, and how this issue inserts into the problem, into the solution that we want to see. And it's going to have an impact positively or negatively on the change that we want to see. And so one of the things that we see that we need to consider is to identify the obstacles, the resistances to the activities, to the projects, or the changes that we want in a map of actors. Who has access to land? Who's interested in obstaculizing that women have participation, political participation? Who is interested in obstaculizing that the community says stop to the cement company and to other practices of depredation of invasion of the territories. Who's interested in this? Who's going to obstacle this? That women don't have access to the elder women have their rights to live a life free of violence, so that they don't have to face sexual violence. Who's interested in this? Who's interested in putting obstacles to these changes? Who is resisting these changes? And they will not be allowed to. But we're also going to see who's resisting change. This has always been like this. I won't be affected. I'm going to accept this. If there's a denouncement, there is resistance. We don't want this change. Somebody might say they are going to pursue us. We're going to resist the change because of this. And why is this? Why do we have resistance? What are the obstacles? Why are they obstacling this and why others are having resistance? We need to understand the why. We need to know who can add to these purposes, to the changes that we want. And those are our true allies who say they're going to help us and guide us. Because it's not an individual action. The change that you're looking for is not individual. The rights to education is parents, their own children who need to express themselves. They need to be aware of their rights. Who are opposing so that they can get this information in the territories of junk food or plastic, who leading to responsible consumption. I said the companies. They are the ones that are going to oppose. So we have public policies to avoid it. So we say a territory free of chemicals. I'm thinking about the study by Jenny Lin. Because it's not plastic bottle only. The waste is diapers, it's bottles. These are all, they were none of our territories, but they get to us. They create waste, they pollute in their land, the water and the children and our families. So we say, who is interested in this? And obstacle in this system. And who can join us as well? We'd also find us at the region. What has been done? What possible changes can we see? You can also see the changes that we want to see. What was done in the past? Who tried to do something in the past? What happened? We're also going to see possibly scenarios where it can be negative. We want to see a public policy, municipality public policy that allows the right to land, so that we can have public policies nationally to have access for women, indigenous women in the territory. Will that be easy, or will that generate conflict? So we need to have, with the map of actors, would allow us to see scenarios, the negative scenarios and the impact that we want to see, based on the change that we want. Because it's not easy. For many, the sexual violence, not having access to land, pollution, to having presence of the cement company, not having access to education. I don't have all the topics right now at the top of my mind, but all of these issues, some sectors are having in favor of this inequality, even if it impacts only the women. So we need to start thinking about the network of defense of water, defenders of water. And one of the topics is going to be mapping the territory, where our strategies are going to be identifying where are the watersheds, and put rules in place to protect this. Deny the entrance to companies that are going to take our water, and that's going to do the conflict. So just an example, okay? Just that happens in Guatemala. There is a high conflict to defend the land, and seeds, and the right to food, and by defending the right to a land free of violence, to defend territories. So we take it on the incidents about this. And we also see scenarios, the positive side, where we say, if I am guiding this incident plan for changes, what positive changes can there be? One might be that the grandmothers can join themselves, or parents and families. How can they sensitize their children? In the case of the government, local governments, they can say, elder women, my grandmothers are elder women, so 30 women. So they create awareness in that sense as well. These are different scenarios that are positive for the change that we want to see. And there may be a low level of conflict, but there's going to be an acceptance of the change. And based on different things that we can see there in the scenario, both in the negative and positive scenarios, we can see that there's going to be variables that are economic, social, political. Why? Because if we're looking to have an incidence on an actor who's interested on keeping the issue, why is he interested? Because there's going to be economic things that are going to help him. There's going to be political issues for social, for the well-being. But also, we might see economic variables, social variables, or political variables that will allow us to see in favor. And there's going to have an influence on those actors that are going to be in favor and in those scenarios, possible scenarios. So hopefully you can understand it. The scenarios, positive or negative, are going to be put into a context, and they're going to have influence by concrete variables, whether they're political, economical, or social. And based on that analysis, we can identify the main information that we need from the actors throughout the incident plan. And they're going to give you some examples of it. Being clear with this, we can say, what do we need? What information do we have? And what objectives can we take? Some examples of this mapping can be identifying actors who can accompany in favor. Who's going to be there? A life free of violence, a right to access to water and taking care of the water and the shed. See a policy for taking care of Mother Earth and the seeds, for food security for women. Who's going to be in favor of this? Who's going to accompany us during this process? And have the characteristics for them. Very clear, very put into the context. And who's going to put the obstacles? Who's going to be against what we're doing? Against the changes that we're proposing? And you put those as well. For instances, who's going to be in favor and who's going to be obstaculizing? Oh, it's not the list. It's not the company. You got to be. What are the interests that they have? What actions are they doing? What resources do they have? Who are their main functionals by name? And the map of actors allows us to go more in depth and allows us to identify actors who have influence on the public opinion. You have those who are in favor and those who are against, but you also have actors who have influence on the public opinion. For example, I can say there is a leader, or yes, is there a political officer? What is her opinion? What if he says something? Will he be heard? Will he have an impact? There is an organization that creates public opinion. And why do we need to recognize this actor? Because it might be that this actor can be an organization, a person, a public instance. They will help us. And will they be in favor of the change? Yes, no? Okay. Let's find this actor. If I'm saying it's a group of indigenous communicator at the local level, and they have a public opinion, the people heard them. When we had COVID, they were the ones who spoke. They had a public opinion. They were out in the communities. And then we have people who were kicked out of the communities. So we took pictures, they published them, they made a memo. So they have a public opinion on certain topics. So we need to acknowledge them because they influence, and they can help us create that influence in the factors that we want to reach. Another element is to analyze the level of interest on a topic. What interest does it have? In this case, for example, on the issues that we want to talk, the changes that we want to see, who is interested in them? The mapping will also allow us to know the level of knowledge. What information is there by the actors on the topic that we want to discuss? For example, do the local government know what's happening? The structural violence, gender violence, sexual violence, on the general things that protect women against life? Do they know something? Do they know that there are laws against femicide and other different types of violence, and gender violence and sexual violence, and that there's something established already by this council to talk about these cases? We need to understand what type of information they have. In the case of Samaya, for example, we're talking about violence, but we can talk about education, or the access to land, or the access to water, and they participate, political participation. What is the level of knowledge that we see in these people? And then this will allow us to analyze the type of public relationships that are predominant among these areas. For example, on education, what level of relationship is there between the principals and educational centers with the community, beyond with the parents who have children who attend their schools? What relationship is there between the parents in the schools and the community in general? What relationship is there with the educational community, parents, students, with the Ministry of Education, and the instances at the local level? How do they relate? This is an example I'm giving you. Well, so with the map of actors, I'm able to see the relationships that exist. Some are there close relationships? Are they eventual relationships? Or is there a constant relationship there? So the map of actors will allow us to see that as well. Who are closer to us? Those actors have relevant changes. Or do they have an intermediate role? Is it weak? This is a two-way street. So the actor will go, is he traveling far within a circle? A small circle in the relationship that he manages? So, and we're going to see this later on. And how do they relate between each other? When we talk about the media, for example, in relationship on the issue of conflict that we want to stage, what does the media have? Is there radio, community radios? Is there local radios? Is there another mean to pass on information in the community? Are there local communications in the radio in the community? Or is there a magazine, a local magazine, that promotes information every month on the situation of the community? That's one way. Is there a local cable or local television channel that allows to have information? So it is important to know this. What are the means of communications that you have? It could be local, regional, national, that have a relationship with the issue that we want to discuss. Or they can have an influence or they have a role on the issue that we have. For example, we can say there is a program, a national TV channel that promotes programs on education. And they give class through TV. And they facilitate information. And they talk about education. But they talk about an education that is patriarchal, sexualized, but it's there, it exists. There's a radio program to give a women that promoted by women, where they're motivating women and the girls and the parents so that they go to school, so they know about the topic and they're doing something about it. There are certain media that do nothing about it and they have no idea what's happening. So that's a key actor that could work for you to help you sensitize, to help you pass on more information, to create awareness. So this is just an example. Another step is, how do we define the steps, this variable, according to the methodological strategy? If our objective is, for example, to identify strategic actors who are a referral for the community, for a region, to link with them, just trying to identify and prevent certain situations of conflict, of preventing violence against women, of preventing the pollution of environment. Just an example, we might think on institutions, finding those actors who can accompany this in favor, or those who are going to be against it. And then you can do a mapping, a general mapping, that talks about the whole thing. What variables do we need to consider in a general mapping? Sectors, that's a variable. What sectors? Political sectors, technical sectors, economic sector, media, social. Then another level, it's where do they have presence? Do they have presence at the national level? Do they have presence at the local level? Do they have presence in a region specific, in a province?
O incluso tienen presencia a nivel internacional.
Or at the local level? Or do they have international level? So what is the jurisdiction? What is the left? Then we talk about relationships. What relationships do they have between the actors? It could be the político or sector.
Nivel nacional y cómo se relacionan. Las relaciones son de
national level, and how does it relate? The relationship between, is it of trust? Are they collaborating? Do we have tense conflict? Are they eventual, they're sporadic, based on their interest? So they don't have continuity? Or is there absence of relationship? And what is the level of influence? And this is very important. So the first variable again, then the fourth variable is the power of decision. What power of decision do they have? So this actor or those actors have? Are they in favor or against? Formal decision rights. Do they have public policies to talk about? It's on them to have a public policy to talk about a life-free of violence. It's on them that we have a law or a framework that allows the participation of women in politics. Is it on them to have those laws to protect the environment? Or is it on them to have decisions in the community? So that's a level of power that they have. Another is the capacity that they have on decision makers, and that's another thing. That's another level of power. What capacity do they have to have an influence on those who take decisions on the topic that we want to talk about? And what capacity or veto do they have on those decisions? And with this variable, in a mapping is very important. Sectors, levels, relationship, and the level of power. By levels, it's just the area coverage that they have. Then the level that they have in the decision, and the capacity they have to influence on the decision makers in a reality or in a situation. We're doing good, okay? And then we talk about general mappings, okay? That we've been doing in a variables for general mapping. And then on environmental and social, based on the community that is, what variables to take into account? The political, the economical, technical sectors, the media, the level of relationship that they have, the level of trust or collaboration that exists, and how often, the level of power. We can put this into characteristics as high power, medium, or low, based on the topic that we're discussing. And then the positioning. In the past, have they discussed about some issues, about certain things that are reality, with similar characteristics to what we're discussing? So can they be in favor of us or against us? So that's the positioning on the environmental presentation. So we talk about the positioning on the topic. Have they said anything in the past? Are they in favor in the past? Are they against something in the past? Have they seen changes in the past? And when they speak, does they have a positive or negative impact? And talk about the communities that are involved and those who are being affected by this project and the change that we want to see. So this is defining the variables. There's the second step. Then the third step is, well, then we have to define the graph. And we have different ways of doing this. The common ones are used for designing. They can have a double entry when you put the different variables selected, just to be able to analyze the actors that have been identified. And this is going to be based on the context. And this is basically, you might have to do different matrices of information with different types of information that is relevant to your case. So that when you do the analysis, you need to be able to have information. And this is another type of mapping. There are ways to graph a mapping, but the ones that are more common is this one. For example, here you see sectors, public sectors, you have it in red. Private is yellow, academic in green, social in blue, in a rectangle. Media. So we have the different sectors, the public sector, private sectors, academic sectors, social sectors, and the communications media. Those are our references. The level of power. We have actors who have decision makers, who are placed in the first circle. Then they also have influence, but without the decision making. And they put it in another graph, in another circle. And then those who have power to veto, we put them in the third circle. And then we have sectors, power, and relationship. Relationship of collaboration, with another way of graphing them, is with the two-sided arrow. When you have conflict, you graph it with one line, and just a sign of conflict. The intermittent, the double movement, and we put that in red. This will be green, this black, this, and the idea is that it happens every now and then. Then you have, you just put them in the circle, but they don't have any relationship, so there's nothing there to guide them.
La influencia sobre, es decir, cómo este actor no la relaciona.
They have a relationship. And when you have the two-way relationship, it's a strong who have influence on the community or the change that we want to see, but it's not open to a relationship. But they do have influence on that change, and we put that in with an arrow, one-way arrow, from the actor to the issue. And for example, here how you can see here, medium support, weak support, weak opposition, medium opposition, or high opposition, based on the level of support. What is the level of support? Strong? Medium? Low? They oppose, they do not oppose, they oppose weakly, or they oppose strongly. And that's how we do that graphically. And then the next step is to take information. And we have different ways and strategies to gather this information. Going for primary sources or secondary sources. For example, we can talk about things that can be analyzed on the initiatives that we talk about. And here we can highlight the need to involve the different actors and take into account the mapping information. What information can we talk about? Once we start doing a research, we talk about, we can identify the things with the media that we use, with the information that we analyze, the material that already exists, like their agreement, notes by the press, information by actors. Perhaps they don't have information somewhere. Another might be using the internet to find information about the actor. We talk about the cement company, or the Mina Marlin, for example. We live in the territory and we know that it exists. It came to the territory, but we know where it came from. We can't find information about it. There's no information in the municipality, but we have looked at the information in Google. Who are the owners? Where do they come from? What other territories they have presence around the world, in the country? Where are they? How the process for them has been? Do you have any consultation? So there are different ways to gather information on the actors. We can have meetings. Even the same community might recognize certain things, like observing directly. Participating in events where they have, for example, there's the mining company. Those are the parents who have the economic power. Those who fear. Those who have avoid children from participating in education. I'm just observing. I'm doing my research, but I'm just observing. I can see the truck coming in filled with drinks. Of Coke, we call them, right? Coke and other types.
Empaques de comida procesada. Y veo cómo entran camiones de agroquímicos. Veo todo lo que desechables, pañales, utensilios desechables. Y ahí voy observando qué empresa llega, quién lleva la basura, quién lleva esa contaminación. Y voy observando el comportamiento de la comunidad en el consumo, en la compra. Por ejemplo, entonces voy observando, solo pienso en, yo me estoy ubicando en lo que ustedes están investigando, quizá no de todo, porque tendría que tener más conocimiento de todos los estudios y los territorios. Y también se puede combinar herramientas utilizando una metodología de círculos concéntricos crecientes para comenzar por las personas más estrictamente vinculadas a la actividad y de mayor confianza, e ir ampliando poco a poco a otros actores. Cuando recabemos información, el mapa de actores incluso no lo tendríamos que hacer solas, lo podemos hacer con la comunidad. Este es el problema y este es el cambio. ¿Qué actores? Primero hacemos ese listado, ese cuadro, esa matriz, y luego hacemos de estos actores quién es el que tiene mayor influencia en un círculo grande. Tiene poder, con rojo. Tiene poder negativo, porque ya lo vimos. Este otro actor tiene poder, pero a favor, lo pintamos de verde, pero es grande. Este actor está cercano a nosotras, entonces una flecha de doble vía, verde. Este actor a favor. Este actor de poder grande, que lo pintamos de rojo y en un círculo grande, está totalmente en contra. Puede generar conflicto, pero está aquí, en el territorio. No está cercano, pero tiene presencia. Y si nos influye, entonces le ponemos una flecha de una vía. O sea, podemos construir el mapa de actores allí, con ellas y ellos. No es una, quizá ahorita por la explicación se vuelve enredado, pero es una herramienta práctica. Ideal es que hagamos el ejercicio nosotras y luego lo hagamos con ellas y ellos de acuerdo cuando estemos ya haciendo ya con ellos de manera participativa el plan de incidencia. Y para eso hay estas formas de recabar información sobre los actores. Es decir, no solo lo numero y lo enuncio, tengo que conocer a profundidad objetivos, intereses, acciones, recursos, que otros, en otros espacios o niveles está, etcétera. Y los actores con miradas y conocimientos diversos que revisen los avances del mapeo. Y esto es así, ya que si bien el mapeo se fundamenta en mucha información objetiva, si se dan cuenta, no es subjetividad la que nos mueve en el mapeo, es información real, objetiva, sí, puede ser cuantitativa, es importante. Entonces, hay que tiene un componente también subjetivo ya en nuestro análisis, pero los datos tienen que ser lo más objetivos y reales. Es importante contar con miradas de otros para que analicen nuestro mapeo, porque otros actores pueden tener otra información y darnos insumos. Entonces, para avanzar en la recopilación de la información para el mapeo, es importante identificar fuentes, es decir, vías posibles de recopilación de información de acuerdo a lo que nosotras queremos, analizar si estas fuentes son suficientes y nos van a dar información importante, como la que vimos en el punto anterior, o si es preciso revisar las variables y los indicadores de la información que queremos.
And information.
Sí, sí, sí.
Disculpe, lo que pasa es que las compañeras están escribiendo en el chat que no escuchan la interpretación en inglés.
Ay, gracias. Muy bien. No he visto por estar viendo, no sé qué pasa con el... ¿No fue mucho tiempo? Muy bien. Voy a tratar de repetir. Muy bien. Más o menos, bueno, voy a tratar de recopilar esta última para que no se pierda la información, pero no estarlas cansando, sino que es una explicación para que entendamos.
We're going to do a summary to go back on what you just said. I'm sorry.
Muy bien. Entonces vamos a decir que el mapeo nos va a dar información objetiva. No puede ser sobre suposiciones de un actor.
It could be based on suppositions and actors. It could be because I like somebody. It has to be very objective. It has to be based on the change that we want to see. It's going to find those actors going to have an influence negatively or positively, or going to oppose or deny what we're trying to do or those changes that we want to have. But it can also have a component that is very subjective, our interpretation, our analysis. And to do this explanation of information, we said that the mapping is important to identify the sources, the possible ways to gather that information, and to see if that information is adapted to our reality or do we need new ones. Analyze if those sources are important for what we have. And with that information, is that enough to complete the process? So when we're collecting the data, we have these steps. So this is the first step. We need to gather that information. It's what we have right here. A mapping of factors is divided in 4 circles. The first one is the user. We put the user in the center. The women who have access to land, women who have access to land. In the case of violence, women who are free of violence. Women, indigenous women in the community such and such, to have political participation in certain positions. Women who take the announcing conflict of sexual violence for third age women. and the council commit themselves. That's the change that we want. That's where we place the user in the center circle. And from there, we try to create the relationship that they have, the change that we want, the actors that we were going to be placing there, then the intermediate actors. And we put them in the closer circle. We're going to put them, those actors who have a direct relationship with us. Let me see if we can show it to you. I'm sorry, I got out of the slide. Okay. Let me finish sharing this step and then we'll do an exercise together. Can you see my slides? I hope that I don't tire you. Some of you have already been mapping in the past, not all. But let's do it together. Here in the circle, here in the circle in the center, we put the user, the women, the change that we want. Then the internal actors are going to be placed in a circle close to the center. And we're going to place those actors who are interacting in a more direct way with the process. And we're going to put them in another circle right here. So those are the internal actors. Then the external actors are those who have a relationship with the internal actors. For example, the council is in the community. The water committees are in the community. The reforestation committees are in the community. If you talk about violence, authorities, women who support, who collaborate. Is there a house to attend the community, who attends the women? That's we're going to put them there in the internal actors. And the external actors are those who have a relationship with the internal actors and make that impact a reality. And we put them in a certain circle. The first circle, and then a second circle. And then the administration, the public administrations, are those institutions who have a relationship with the topic, directly or indirectly, who might not be the Ministry of Education per se. We have the Ministry of Education, right, at the national level, and they have the educational centers at the department level, and then at the municipal level, they have coordinations, technical educations, coordinations. At least that's how happens in our country. Then they have the national level, then the department level, the municipal level, and then technical councils in the communities. So those are different actors have presence. That's just an example in terms of the example of education, okay? Just the same happens through the other one. And then the internal actor, the user with the change we want to see, the institution in the second circle, then the external circle here, and then the public institutions over here. If you based on the dimension and those actors, we're going to establish that relationship. So let me go back to this graph. And we start here with the one we did. Public sector is going to be put here. You can put whatever the different types to do it. The level of power that they have, and the relationship. And they're going to establish the relationship.
Doble relación de doble vía. ¿Sí? No. No, solo estoy hablando y aquí, pero sí se ve la gráfica. ¿Se ve la gráfica?
No se ve la gráfica.
Ah, no, si la presentación, aquí estoy marcando. Sí. ¿No se ve? Sí, o sea, no sé, permítanme, perdonen. A ver, quiero ver. Aquí está. Aquí está. ¿Sí se ve? Muy bien. Entonces, regresé a esta
Okay, Dom,
relacionando
we're back here.
que vimos, recordándoles colaboración y alianza,
This is a collaborations and alliances
una flecha de doble vía en
with
verde,
one arrow or two arrows.
una
When we
flecha
have conflict, we put that sign in the middle
con una marca de conflicto.
with that mark that shows us that there's a conflict there.
Una relación eventual,
The dotted lines shows us that's an eventual type of relationship, and then we have the permanent one,
no fija, no recta, y
not
punteada
fixed, not
de
that's
color
straight, it's
verde.
dotted in red.
Está o no está, pero existe. Es, por ejemplo,
There is, but there might be, but they exist. There's have the public ministry there
por la no
who
violencia,
has to take care of the no violence
pero no está
against women,
en el territorio,
but it's not there
en la comunidad,
in the
ni en el
territory
departamento, ni
or in the community or in the
está,
department.
pero no existe. Entonces, no se pone ninguna flecha.
So we don't put it there, but we highlight it.
Tiene influencia, sea interno,
But an actor who has influence, external or external, who has influence
círculo principal o el cambio,
on the main circle,
se anota con una flecha en
we
color
put them down with a black line
de una vía.
with one way.
Bien.
Alrighty?
Según la importancia, puede ser
And then based on that importance,
medianos,
we're gonna have big circles, middle circles, or a very small circles. It could be close,
no tiene recursos,
but they don't have the resources, that they have actions that are not useful,
su nivel de poder
but they have very small influence.
es un actor local,
There's an actor who's local,
recursos, tiene relaciones con otros, entonces lo planteamos de un círculo pequeño, mediano.
and we put them in a small circle or a medium circle,
Es una
and we create a relationship. It's just an instance there with the resources against something or in favor of something,
no está en el territorio. O es una acción, y la
or
pintamos
is
de
it,
rojo. Es una instancia fuerte, con recursos, maneja el tema de violencia, pero no está en el territorio. Entonces, no hay líneas, pero
so
existe.
there is a,
Eso
but there exists.
nos permite ver el mapeo
That allows to see the mapping of actors.
gráfica, que es lo último que
But graphically,
nos permite ver con quiénes vamos a contar. Entonces, no sé, el mapeo de actores es una herramienta práctica, no es complicada y se aprende haciendo. Yo creo que algunas de ustedes ya la han
You
trabajado.
learn by doing, and I know some of you have already worked on it. So now we're going to do the following. I'm going to do the first exercise. It can be individual. And for that, we're going to use a matrix where we're going to work on this matrix. First, we're going to map some local stakeholders that have to do with the change that you want. Afterward, we're going to do our local stakeholders. We identify them, and then in another line, we are going to write down external stakeholders, but that have a presence locally, okay? And then external stakeholders that are know the subject and could be in favor or against, but that are not local, that exist. And then we're going to have in this first line the stakeholders, and the second one we're going to establish what is their role, what position or what action do they carry out. In the third column, we're going to have what is the objective, what is their objective, and the fourth column, what is their level of power, decision-making power, high in one, mid, or low. That is what we're going to do right now. And in the last one, we're going to see which territory they have presence. That's going to be the work that you're going to do now individually. I consider that we could have maybe 10 minutes to do that exercise. I'm going to move the matrix so you can do it. And meanwhile, I want to see if there's a comment or a question about it. Do any of you have a question? Have you done a map of stakeholder map before? Okay. I'm going to present this matrix. You let me know if you can see it. Can you see it? I'm gonna write it down here so you can see it. Can you see it?
Sí se ve una diapositiva, pero está
Yes,
como,
we see a.
no se ve grande.
We can't see it large. It's small. Okay, we're gonna identify first who is going to be the stakeholder. And we are going to do 3 levels.
Quizá les voy a pedir el favor.
I'm gonna ask you for a favor that while that you can all write it down on a piece of paper, identify actors that you already have in your incidents plan so that it's clear to you. We're gonna take 5 minutes to do that list. Internal stakeholders that have some level of knowledge or influence on the change that we want. External stakeholders that have a presence in our territory or in the community, and external stakeholders that have to do with the change that we want but that don't have a presence. That's going to be the list that we're going to make while I finish writing the matrix, okay? Okay, so we're all going to list and we're going to integrate it to the matrix, please. Internal, external, internal first. Internal, and we list them. Then external stakeholders that are not of the community or the territory, but that arrive and they have to do with the change that we want to create with our incidents plan. And finally, external stakeholders that don't have a presence and have some sort of knowledge and power on the subject, okay? So 3. Internal, external that have a presence, and external who don't have a presence. And I will work the rest of the matrix.
Muy bien. Me preguntan que vuelva a escribir la pregunta. Vamos ahorita cada una a hacer el siguiente ejercicio a partir.
Okay, so we're going to do the following exercise based on the information you already have from your instance plan that's already been drafted. That you can write three levels of stakeholders with the changes that you want to achieve. The first one is which internal stakeholders that are in the community or territory that belong to that territory, that could be from the peoples or the communities that have an influence. That's the first one. According to the subject that we want. And in this column, we're going to write down which community,
organizaciones, etcétera, que tengan que ver con el tema, que trabajen en el tema, que pueden influir en el cambio, sea positivo o negativamente en el cambio que queremos en nuestro plan y que tienen presencia en el territorio, pero no son del territorio. Pueden ser instituciones de gobierno. Si mi tema es el derecho a la educación para las niñas, pueden ser el Ministerio de Educación, los maestros, no necesariamente son de la localidad. Puede ser, por ejemplo, el coordinador técnico de educación. Puede ser una organización que trabaja con educación, con el derecho a la educación para las niñas. O puede ser una institución, una organización que lo que hace es generar trabajo para niñas, pero de alguna manera puede ser a favor o en contra. Es un ejemplo. Son actores externos que no están en el territorio, no son de la...
Remember, you have to do it on external stakeholders as well that are not within the community, but they have to be within, that have some incidence. There are other externals that don't have incidence, but they don't have a presence. So it's the stakeholders that are within the community that have an influence, those who are external that have an influence, and then you have externals that are stakeholders but have no influence. Okay?
Atención a casos de femicidio, pero no está ahí, no llegan, ni siquiera tienen presencia ni en la comunidad ni en el municipio, pero trabajan y es su responsabilidad
And so they, for example, when we talk about violence, we're talking about the public ministry. And they are not necessarily working on that particular part specifically, but they have an incidence. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, so let's do that.
Muy bien. Muy bien, ¿estamos? Creo que hay algunas anotaciones en el chat. Si me hicieran favor de traducir, por favor.
Okay, if you can please translate.
Sí. Veo que hay algunas anotaciones en el chat, si me las pudieran trasladar. Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias, Alina. Muy bien. Voy a proyectar. Ah, muy bien. Gracias, Alina. Yo creo que ya nos hizo favor ella de volver a trasladar la información. Esta sería la matriz que vamos a trabajar.
And then this is the matrix we're going to be working on. Internal stakeholders, and we list external with presence, external without presence but with influence. And then for each stakeholder, you establish different activities. What level of influence or incidence do you have based on the change that you want to achieve in our incidence plan? If you have a high level of influence, you mark with an X. If it's a mid-level of influence, you mark it, or you mark whichever level of incidence you have. Or are they opposing, or are they different? And the same way we proceed with the rest of the stakeholders: internal, external with presence, external without presence but with influence. And then we're going to see the level of relationship that we have between the stakeholders and the change that we want to achieve. For example, if it's about collaboration, we're going to mark, for example, an internal stakeholder. We're going to say it's collaboration alliance, if that's the case. So we're going to say collaboration alliance. Another internal one would be a network of women that are practicing. So maybe it's a collaboration and alliance relationship. There is an internal stakeholder that could have some sort of an incident. And maybe they have a patriarchal characteristic, and they don't tend to the violence cases, and they re-victimize women. So we say that there's a tension and conflict. There's one stakeholder that's community stakeholder, which is the church, for example, that has a relationship of intermittent relationship. Some actions are done, but it's it has no continuity. So there's an absence. It's there, and be school. It's there, it has a presence, but they're not interested or worried in a life free of sexual violence for women, for example. Then we have maybe actors that have a different level of relationship or incidents. For example, they may have an influence on a subject, but there's no relationship, or the community leaders. So you have to establish the level of relationship and collaboration or alliance. Tension or conflict, intermittence, or anything like that. That's going to be the individual homework that you're going to work. I don't know if you have another question. I don't know if maybe by chat, Dunen, we can send this presentation or the graphic so they can see it.
Sí, claro. La subimos al Moodle.
Yes, we'll upload it to Moodle. So if you can do this exercise today, are you with the disposition of working it now? That you can do this exercise individually. So for that, we're going to have 10 minutes, please, to start working on it. And then we're going to complete it in the week. And then we're going to go to a group work where with this, where we're going to have a graphic actors map. We have 10 minutes right now. We're back at 9:20. Okay.
Voy a subir entonces, yo digo que al chat voy a enviar la información ¿sí? Sí. Muy bien, ahorita. Muchas gracias. Ahora me
We'll
dice
translate them in a second, okay?
¿se ve? Muy bien. La dejo acá para que también la vayan viendo las compañeras de Avyayala y
I'm gonna
puedan
leave it on so that everybody can take a look and you can build your own. You can build your own matrix. All right. 1 second.
Yo la puedo dejar proyectando, ¿les parece? Para que la vean las de español. Y luego en inglés, pues está haciendo favor Alina de traducirla. ¿De acuerdo? Entonces iniciamos con el trabajo individual, por favor.
We're gonna start with the work and I'm gonna translate it in a second. Give me 1 sec.
En una presentación o en una hoja. En una hoja de papel ustedes pueden presentarla o de una vez escrita en PowerPoint o en una presentación. Por favor.
Asia and Africa, in the chat you can find the matrix for the stakeholder map that we have on the screen. You can find a picture of it with all the information translated in English for your reference, okay? Thank you.
Muy bien. Bueno, nos falta un minutito. ¿Cómo van cómo van
We
avanzando?
still have one more minute. How are you guys doing?
Me dicen.
Let me know.
Muy bien, ¿cómo vamos avanzando? ¿Podemos detenernos ya un momentito, por favor?
Okay, how we're moving forward. We can stop for a second now. Are we good?
Bienvenidas.
Welcome.
Muy bien. Muchas
Okay,
gracias. Por el tiempo que tenemos, la idea era
welcome.
que pudiéramos
Because of the time that we have, the idea is that we can do the work in a collective manner with our map of actors. We have the matrix as a preliminary situation. I think that what we can do, 9:24. We have half an hour, and I think I would like for you to open your cameras if possible. And if you have your page of what you have worked, and that you can present it. Who finished? Raise your hand. Who finished your stakeholder map with this exercise that you're still going to do in the process of the research? When you do your incidents plan that's more complete, who are able to move forward with this, please? If you can raise your hand. Or you can say it verbally. Jesse finished or advanced. Who else? Florence, Nai, Nukila, Jenny. Who else? Me, Liz. Daisy. Were you able to move forward? Are we good? I hope we can, and we're going to continue doing this exercise. Now we're going to move into groups, or maybe because of time, we have half an hour. Can we do breakout rooms, please? We have 20 minutes that we can destine to this, to do the work. We can share a matrix and then do the exercise. You're going to present it in PowerPoint in a graphic way. You identify it, and you build one with the collective, and you present the map in a graphic way. So let's go to breakout rooms, please. And there we can share some difficulties. We can share our difficulties. We're going to have 20 minutes because I think we need the time. The first thing is to share and socialize what you did, and then do it graphically. So you guys meet together, and we're going to share what we have moved forward, or what we have done with our stakeholder map. We're going to have 20 minutes to do that.
Creo que a todos les salió en su pantalla para que se unan a las.
So you're going to have it in your screen to join a breakout room.
Todas pueden ver esa opción. Para que por favor se vayan.
So please go join your breakout rooms.
Compañeras de África se pueden unir al grupo. Loman, te puedes unir al grupo de Asia.
Oh, sorry. How do I go?
Daisy.
Yes.
Daisy.
Hey,
Vivian.
uko wapi jamani?
Ni nini tu inaongelewa maana mimi nilikuwa tu nimelala huko.
Sinaona ni kama uko kwenye culture show ama inaitwaje?
Nipo kwenye duka yangu.
Hiyo shanga jamani tuletee tukikuja kugraduate.
Usijali, simona hivyo nzuri
Sana.
Lorena anasemaje?
Sasa anasema maneno ya kumap stakeholders. Wanisikia?
Ndio nakusikia.
Sasa kuna exercise amepeana tufanye na mimi nashangaa. Nimejaribu kufanya inakataa, laptop yangu imekataa, nikaamua kuiacha. Vivian iko wapi?
Vivian yupo.
Simo.
Vivian na yupo.
Hebu nikampigie na nambari yake ya Kenya.
Haya, sawa.
Sorry, the mobile subscriber can...
Ni mteja.
Sasa hapa tunaweza tukaandika kwenye karatasi, haina shida, alafu tutaelezea.
Shida ni ile hata siku screenshot hiyo kitu sioni kwa message. Acha niulize mtu wa Asia tutumie.
Haya.
Nimetext kwa hiyo group mail na shatungoje.
Amesema?
Nimetext kwa group watutumie question.
Okay, no problem. Hai. Lakini wakati tunasubiri, tunaweza tukazidiscuss tu.
Haina shida.
Kwa sababu I saw like they are saying internal and external stakeholders.
Yeah.
Sasa tukiangalia kwenye maeneo yetu wale internal, tunaweza tukawatumia hata CSOs ambao wanafanya kazi na hizi jamii, lakini pia tukaangalia kuna saa nilikuwa namsikiliza anasema kuna Indigenous radio kama ziko, kuna expert ambayo tunaweza tukawatumia kama internal expert wa masuala ya Indigenous people, na wako ready to work with IPs at different angles. Lakini kwa nawaza pia alienda pia zaidi aka anasema masuala ya magazine, newspaper and something of hizi za kuandika. Kama ipo. Yeah, pia ali disclose that, akaona kama inawezekana. Lakini kwa external ndo tutakuwa tunaangalia partners. Mimi naona kama partners. Partners kwa mfano kwa nyinyi kwenye taasisi yenu, si mna partners organization labda Tanzania at the regional level. Haya, kama hao, lakini kuna partners wengine, kwa mfano nikichukulia mfano kama Pingos. Kuna partners ambao tunawatumia kwenye advocacy. Mfano tunataka kushare message ya Indigenous communities iwe viral at the international level. Kuna wale partners ambao tunawatumia. Kwa mfano sisi tunaweza tukatumia partners kama EGIA, kuna Auckland, kuna Amnesty au wote. Kwa sababu they work with Indigenous communities, so tuna broader ile. Yeah, kwa hiyo hao ndio wanakuwa ni yani we want to convey our message beyond borders. So what stakeholders do you use, ndo hao upande huo. Lakini pia kuna media houses. Kuna media houses ambayo sio Indigenous per se, but kuna masuala wako interested kuyafanya. Kwa mfano ukaangalia Deutsche Welle. DW. Ukiwa una share information labda ya masuala ya indigenous communities wana air. Kwa mfano ile International Survival Radio, you can share. So unaangalia zile platform. Mi naona kama ni kwa hivyo. Sijui
Hata mimi naona ni
umeelewaje
hivyo.
pia. Yeah.
Pia mimi nimeelewa hivyo.
Okay. Basi nahisi tunaweka kwa namna hiyo. Labda tukiangalia pia kwenye government level, naweza tukaangalia kwa politician. Kuna politician ambao wako very competent na masuala ya IP, hawana shida na they are well to help. Naamini wapo hao.
Wapo.
So unakuta yuko kwenye ministry fulani au yuko kwenye committee. So unajua kuna hizi committee za bunge, parliamentary committees za different issues. Kwa mfano committee ya health nini, so unazijua hizo
Zipo
hata hizo stakeholders at the national level kuna hao. Kwa hiyo we can speak on that modality kwamba at the national level despite kwamba most of our government do not recognize indigenous people with the exception ya nyinyi kwa sababu kwenye katiba ipo. Kuna wale ambao they are okay with IP community and they are well familiar with issues of indigenous people, and some of them even they assess this. Kwa mfano si tuna mmoja ambaye alifanya thesis yake Ngorongoro ya indigenous people. Kwa hiyo unaona how is familiar interest yake. So even those one we can include them.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Iko sawa. Pia kuna zile kama ministries kwa government kama Ministry of Education kwa mfano. Kuna ile agenda kama wafanya kitu ya agenda. Natumai au pia si ni stakeholders kuna wanaelewa.
Wako ni stakeholders. Kwa mfano unafanya masuala ya gender based violence. Mfano kwa huku kwetu. Kuna zile GBV supporting structures at the government level. Kwa mfano social welfare at the district council, kuna community development officers wale. Lakini ukitoka hapo utaenda baka kwenye national, kwenye regional. Wao wapo, wewe unafanya masuala ya nani? Education to girl child. Automatically you touch them. So they are open kwa mfano kudisclose data, kudisclose masuala ambayo zina affect young girl attend school. Kwa hiyo hawa stakeholders automatically you need to work with them kwa sababu ya ile demographic ambazo wanazo za data za masuala mbalimbali ya elimu. Kwa hiyo kuna hao, it is true kabisa, wapo hao. Yeah.
I get it.
Sasa hapo let's uandike maana hapa we need to write somewhere. Are you writing?
Nimekuwa naziandika kama message kwenye simu.
Ulikuwa unaandika?
Naam.
Sasa andika tu, ukiandika hata pembeni baadaye kama tutaambiwa to present it is easy kwa sababu tayari tumeshazi.
Laptop yangu imezima sasa siwezi nikaiandika. Nimeandika tu kwenye simu, tuta present tu.
To present hata bila kuweka kwenye nani laptop. Sababu hata mwenyewe natumia simu. Lakini usijali. In case watahitaji chochote, si wote tupo. Kwa hiyo we can share and explain more about it. Lakini sasa tuje kwenye research yetu. Kwenye stakeholders kwenye research lazima tuangalie pia ambao wako karibu na jamii. Sawa Kwa mfano local government authorities. They are directly attached to the communities.
Yeah.
Yani ukianza kwenye village government, ward government, urudi kwa chief, kwa nani, all those they are very directly wako karibu na
hello. How's
Hi.
everyone?
Hi.
Does someone want to share? Then we can maybe help or ask questions.
Yeah, Doman, I'm still working on that. I'm not finished
Okay.
yet.
Okay. Just let us know if you want to share so we can share our feedbacks as well.
Still working on this. Sorry.
Would like to hear from Mimient.
I'm still working on it.
Okay.
Not finished yet. Yes. It's a lot. Maybe like this. Women representative. You can share comment if you want. We can listen while walking. I'm sorry. Hello. Hello. Can you hear me?
Oh yes.
Hi. Mm.
S rules W.
Who is that? And what was that?
Is talking.
Yeah.
Media.
Doman,
Yeah.
yeah. Can you share me what is the relation label means?
Okay. That was there are 4, I think, or 5. One was collaboration and alliance. If you have if yeah. The other one is tension and conflict. There's another one,
Collaboration.
intermittent. So not continue. Collaboration and alliance. That's one. Collaboration or
Yeah.
alliance. And then the other one is tension and or conflict. There's another one, intermittent. It's like not continuous. Yeah? Intermittent. There's some work, but not. Yeah.
Copy. Yeah.
Wait, I let me share. Let me
Yeah,
share my
okay.
screen.
Sure.
There, you see?
Yeah.
Oh, this one. Because, but maybe I won't really show this because it might offend him. It's personality. The
Yeah.
office should. Yeah. So I think I'll just. I. It has a good influence on, especially on peace and healing, but I'll just put intermittent.
Yeah.
Meaning I can still build relationship. I can improve the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Collaboration.
Collaboration, because we have they have high influence, and it's the mandate of their office. Oh, this should go in the internal. Yeah, they should go in the internal. They have high influence. We have some level of collaboration. But these ones are national and regional offices. So oh yeah. Oh, but this one, because it's the local government unit, they have a very high influence. But our cooperation is intermittent.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh,
Thank
okay.
you, Daman.
Okay. Okay. I hope that. Thank you.
Yeah, maybe our time is over.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go back.
Muy bien. Buenos días. Entonces, espero que hayan podido avanzar. Yo sé que el tiempo para estos
Good morning. I hope that you guys could move forward. I know for these exercises, time is very short, but the important part is that we move forward.
Cambiar incluso hasta dificultades que puedan.
You lost audio.
¿Qué pasó? Disculpe. Les decía que espero hayan podido avanzar como grupo. No sé cómo les fue en la socialización. Nos quedan como 6 minutos, uno en verdad, para terminar. O un poco más.
How did you guys do? Did you guys finish? Is everything okay? So 5 more minutes. Okay, we're still not going to socialize anything. What homework are we going to have? Because we didn't finish the mapping. We're going to finish our matrix that we have individually. We're going to see which day we're going to meet by region to finish creating the mapping as a region. Are you doing as a region? And the next session, we're going to have as a first point the socialization of the mapping per region, if you were okay with that. I don't know if you have a question or anything like that, or if you have the instructions clear for the next session. Is it clear? Yes, okay, perfect. Dom, do you have any questions?
Yeah, the socialization per region, do we consolidate our maps or?
Primero, cada una.
First of all, each one of you,
Okay.
I think the minutes that we gave to do the individual matrix is too little, so you couldn't finish. So I'm going to ask you to do it as real as possible according to the information that you have. So the first step is to finish your individual matrix, the map of the stakeholders, and then the second is program per region a meeting to continue with this group work and finish the cycle of the mapping. You can do an example, integrate all the ideas. The idea is to do an exercise, because to do it collectively, we clear out doubts and we even get some feedback as a group. And then the second one is to prepare a PowerPoint and we present it for the next session. I remember that in the center, we add the stakeholders with which we want to have an action. Women and ones. we say the community or the women of the community X that have the right to water, for example, and food, or food, according to the change. What we put in the center is the different actors, the different stakeholders, and then we see what we want to do or what we want to achieve to build the map. Do you guys have any other questions? That would be the exercise. First of all, there's no questions. We're gonna see the exercise. What did you guys believe the exercise? How did you do with the exercise? Don't. Oh, your camera's on. How did it go in Asia with this exercise? Socializing the matrix.
Yeah, we did it individually, but I also, since I made the matrix, I shared because we like Mint and Naina wanted to see some examples. And then we also shared some, like, there are people, I also, I shared, like, I'm not going to put the tension, otherwise it might create more tension. So I just put low influence or mid influence. So we helped each other.
Qué bueno, la razón del trabajo grupal es eso.
Good, that's the idea of the group work. Sometimes when we're building something, when you're doing an analysis, and we're building the map together, we can get feedback. Africa, how did you do? Lee, how did you do? And if not, we're gonna go with Latin America. We also were able to share what each one of us was able to do. Some of the sisters advanced better to identify the regional stakeholders.
Para todas, porque así como vamos como también nosotras repensando en nuestro propio ejercicio de actores y hacemos como este ejercicio de similitud, ¿no? Por
We
ejemplo,
did this exercise of similarities between stakeholders and maybe some organization, or we try to figure out what was similar and what contributed to our exercise.
Entonces quiere decir que, bueno, construir el mapa de actores es un
Great, so that means when you're building a stakeholder map, it's a process, and we're not going to have it complete in the exercises, but we're going to be able to finish it in the field. I invite you to do your homework and proceed. Socialize it on Tuesday, and then we'll be ready.
Muchísimas gracias a cada
See
uno
you Tuesday, and thank you very much.
por lo que están caminando ya. Animarlas a continuar con la investigación de campo. Tenemos todo el mes de mayo, el resto del mes de mayo, para seguir con la investigación en las comunidades, en los territorios, y pues junio para procesar y para ir construyendo el plan de incidencia. Entonces, ideal es que cuando hagamos nuestro mapa de actores, lo hagamos en los territorios de manera participativa. Entonces, muchísimas gracias a ustedes. Creo que terminamos con nuestra sesión de hoy. Gracias por
I
quedarse.
think we're done with our session today. Thank you for staying till the end, and we invite you for Tuesday to present your group work and send your matrix, complete matrix. Send it or upload it to Moodle, please. And finish the map per region on Tuesday. Thank you. Good day, good night, good afternoon.
Muchísimas gracias. Un abrazo grande y están siempre en mi corazón. Cuídense mucho.
Gracias.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias.
Gracias. Buen fin de semana.
Igualmente, cuídense.
Gracias. Thank you so much, teacher. Bye.
Adiós, cuídense.